英語聞き流しリスニング、英語テキストと MP3 ダウンロード、その他の物語はホームページからお聞きいただけます。88thpp.com 88thpp.com
20th January. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Did you ever have a sweet baby girl who was stolen from the cradle in infancy? Maybe I am she. If we were in a novel, that would be the denouement, wouldn't it? It's really awfully queer not to know what one is, sort of exciting and romantic. There are such a lot of possibilities. Maybe I'm not American, lots of people aren't. I may be straight descended from the ancient Romans, or I may be a Viking's daughter, or I may be the child of a Russian exile and belong by rights in a Siberian prison, or maybe I'm a gypsy. I think perhaps I am. I have a very wandering spirit, though I haven't as yet had much chance to develop it. Do you know about that one scandalous blot in my career, the time I ran away from the asylum because they punished me for stealing cookies? It's down in the books free for any trustee to read. But really, Daddy, what could you expect? When you put a hungry little 9-year girl in the pantry scouring knives, with a cookie jar at her elbow and go off and leave her alone, and then suddenly pop in again, wouldn't you expect to find her a bit crummy? And then when you jerk her by the elbow and box her ears, and make her leave the table when the pudding comes, and tell all the other children that it's because she's a thief, wouldn't you expect her to run away? I only ran 4 miles. They caught me and brought me back, and every day for a week I was tied, like a naughty puppy, to a stake in the backyard while the other children were out at recess. Oh, dear. There's the chapel bell, and after chapel I have a committee meeting. I'm sorry because I meant to write you a very entertaining letter this time. Auf Wiedersehen. Cher Daddy. Pax TB. Judy. P.S. There's one thing I'm perfectly sure of, I'm not a Chinaman. 4th February. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Jimmy McBride has sent me a Princeton banner as big as one end of the room. I'm very grateful to him for remembering me, but I don't know what on earth to do with it. Sally and Julia won't let me hang it up. Our room this year is furnished in red, and you can imagine what an effect we'd have if I added orange and black. But it's such nice, warm, thick felt, I hate to waste it. Would it be very improper to have it made into a bathrobe? My old one shrank when it was washed. I've entirely omitted of late telling you what I am learning, but though you might not imagine it from my letters, my time is exclusively occupied with study. It's a very bewildering matter to get educated in 5 branches at once. The test of true scholarship, says chemistry professor, is a painstaking passion for detail. Be careful not to keep your eyes glued to detail, says history professor. Stand far enough away to get a perspective of the whole. You can see with what nicety we have to trim our sails between chemistry and history. I like the historical method best. If I say that William the Conqueror came over in 1492, and Columbus discovered America in 1100 or 1066 or whenever it was, that's a mere detail that the professor overlooks. It gives a feeling of security and restfulness to the history recitation that is entirely lacking in chemistry. 6th hour bell. I must go to the laboratory and look into a little matter of acids and salts and alkalis. I burned a hole as big as a plate in the front of my chemistry apron, with hydrochloric acid. If the theory worked, I ought to be able to neutralize that hole with good strong ammonia, oughtn't I? Examinations next week, but who's afraid? Yours ever. Judy. 5th March. Dear Daddy Longlegs. There is a March wind blowing, and the sky is filled with heavy, black moving clouds. The crows in the pine trees are making such a clamor. It's an intoxicating, exhilarating, calling noise. You want to close your books and be off over the hills to race with the wind. We had a paper chase last Saturday over 5 miles of squashy cross country. The Fox, composed of 3 girls and a bushel or so of confetti, started half an hour before the 27 hunters. I was one of the 27, 8 dropped by the wayside. We ended 19. The trail led over a hill, through a cornfield, and into a swamp where we had to leap lightly from hummock to hummock. Of course, half of us went in ankle deep. We kept losing the trail, and we wasted 25 minutes over that swamp. Then up a hill through some woods and in at a barn window. The barn doors were all locked and the window was up high and pretty small. I don't call that fair, do you? But we didn't go through, We circumnavigated the barn and picked up the trail where it issued by way of a low shed roof onto the top of a fence. The fox thought he had us there, but we fooled him. Then straight away over 2 miles of rolling meadow, and awfully hard to follow, for the confetti was getting sparse. The rule is that it must be at the most 6 feet apart, but they were the longest 6 feet I ever saw. Finally, after 2 hours of steady trotting, we tracked Monsieur Fox into the kitchen of Crystal Spring. That's a farm where the girls go in bobsleighs and hay wagons for chicken and waffle suppers, and we found the 3 foxes placidly eating milk and honey and biscuits. They hadn't thought we would get that far. They were expecting us to stick in the barn window. Both sides insist that they won. I think we did, don't you? Because we caught them before they got back to the campus. Anyway, all 19 of us settled like locusts over the furniture and clamored for honey. There wasn't enough to go round, but Mrs. Crystal Spring, that's our pet name for her, she's by rights a Johnson, brought up a jar of strawberry jam and a can of maple syrup, just made last week, and 3 loaves of brown bread. We didn't get back to college till 6:30, half an hour late for dinner, and we went straight in without dressing, and with perfectly unimpaired appetites. Then we all cut evening chapel, the state of our boots being enough of an excuse. I never told you about examinations. I passed everything with the utmost ease. I know the secret now, and am never going to fail again. I shan't be able to graduate with honors though, because of that beastly Latin prose and geometry freshman year. But I don't care. What's the hod so long as you're 'appy? That's a quotation. I've been reading the English classics. Speaking of classics, have you ever read Hamlet? If you haven't, do it right off. It's perfectly corking. I've been hearing about Shakespeare all my life, but I had no idea he really wrote so well. I always suspected him of going largely on his reputation. I have a beautiful play that I invented a long time ago when I first learned to read. I put myself to sleep every night by pretending I'm the person, the most important person, in the book I'm reading at the moment. At present I'm Ophelia, and such a sensible Ophelia. I keep Hamlet amused all the time, and pet him and scold him and make him wrap up his throat when he has a cold. I've entirely cured him of being melancholy. The king and queen are both dead, an accident at sea, no funeral necessary, so Hamlet and I are ruling in Denmark without any bother. We have the kingdom working beautifully. He takes care of the governing, and I look after the charities. I have just founded some first-class orphan asylums. If you or any of the other trustees would like to visit them, I shall be pleased to show you through. I think you might find a great many helpful suggestions. I remain, sir, yours most graciously, Ophelia, Queen of Denmark. 24th March, maybe the 25th. Dear Daddy Longlegs, I don't believe I can be going to heaven. I am getting such a lot of good things here, it wouldn't be fair to get them hereafter too. Listen to what has happened. Jerusha Abbott has won the short story contest, a $25 prize, that the monthly holds every year. And she's a sophomore. The contestants are mostly seniors. When I saw my name posted, I couldn't quite believe it was true. Maybe I'm going to be an author after all. I wish Mrs. Lippett hadn't given me such a silly name. It sounds like an authoress, doesn't it? Also, I have been chosen for the spring dramatics, as you like it out of doors. I'm going to be Celia, own cousin to Rosalind. And lastly, Julia and Sally and I are going to New York next Friday to do some spring shopping and stay all night and go to the theater the next day with Master Jervy. He invited us. Julia is going to stay at home with her family, but Sally and I are going to stop at the Martha Washington Hotel. Did you ever hear of anything so exciting? I've never been in a hotel in my life, nor in a theater, except once when the Catholic Church had a festival and invited the orphans, but that wasn't a real play and it doesn't count. And what do you think we're going to see? Hamlet. Think of that. We studied it for 4 weeks in Shakespeare class and I know it by heart. I'm so excited over all these prospects that I can scarcely sleep. Goodbye, Daddy. This is a very entertaining world. Yours ever, Judy. P.S. I've just looked at the calendar. It's the 28th. Another postscript. I saw a streetcar conductor today with one brown eye and one blue. Wouldn't he make a nice villain for a detective story? 7th April. Dear Daddy Longlegs. Mercy. Isn't New York big? Worcester is nothing to it. Do you mean to tell me that you actually live in all that confusion? I don't believe that I shall recover for months from the bewildering effect of 2 days of it. I can't begin to tell you all the amazing things I've seen. I suppose you know, though, since you live there yourself. But aren't the streets entertaining? And the people? And the shops? I never saw such lovely things as there are in the windows. It makes you want to devote your life to wearing clothes. Sally and Julia and I went shopping together Saturday morning. Julia went into the very most gorgeous place I ever saw, white and gold walls and blue carpets and blue silk curtains and gilt chairs. A perfectly beautiful lady with yellow hair and a long black silk trailing gown came to meet us with a welcoming smile. I thought we were paying a social call, and started to shake hands, but it seems we were only buying hats, at least Julia was. She sat down in front of a mirror and tried on a dozen, each lovelier than the last, and bought the 2 loveliest of all. I can't imagine any joy in life greater than sitting down in front of a mirror and buying any hat you choose without having first to consider the price. There's no doubt about it, Daddy, New York would rapidly undermine this fine stoical character which the John Grier home so patiently built up. And after we'd finished our shopping, we met Master Jervy at Sherry's. I suppose you've been in Sherry's? Picture that, then picture the dining room of the John Grier home with its oilcloth-covered tables, and white crockery that you can't break, and wooden-handled knives and forks, and fancy the way I felt. I ate my fish with the wrong fork, but the waiter very kindly gave me another so that nobody noticed. And after luncheon we went to the theater. It was dazzling, marvelous, unbelievable. I dream about it every night. Isn't Shakespeare wonderful? Hamlet is so much better on the stage than when we analyze it in class. I appreciated it before, but now, dear me. I think, if you don't mind, that I'd rather be an actress than a writer. Wouldn't you like me to leave college and go into a dramatic school? And then I'll send you a box for all my performances, and smile at you across the footlights. Only wear a red rose in your buttonhole, please, so I'll surely smile at the right man. It would be an awfully embarrassing mistake if I picked out the wrong one. We came back Saturday night and had our dinner in the train, at little tables with pink lamps and Negro waiters. I never heard of meals being served in trains before, and I inadvertently said so. "Where on earth were you brought up?" said Julia to me. "In a village," said I meekly, to Julia. "But didn't you ever travel?" said she to me. "Not till I came to college, and then it was only 160 miles and we didn't eat," said I to her. She's getting quite interested in me, because I say such funny things. I try hard not to, but they do pop out when I'm surprised, and I'm surprised most of the time. It's a dizzying experience, Daddy, to pass 18 years in the John Grier home, and then suddenly to be plunged into the world. But I'm getting acclimated. I don't make such awful mistakes as I did, and I don't feel uncomfortable anymore with the other girls. I used to squirm whenever people looked at me. I felt as though they saw right through my sham new clothes to the checked ginghams underneath. But I'm not letting the ginghams bother me anymore. Sufficient unto yesterday is the evil thereof. I forgot to tell you about our flowers. Master Jervy gave us each a big bunch of violets and lilies of the valley. Wasn't that sweet of him? I never used to care much for men, judging by trustees, but I'm changing my mind. 11 pages, this is a letter. Have courage. I'm going to stop. Yours always, Judy.
英語聞き流しリスニング、英語テキストと MP3 ダウンロード、その他の物語はホームページからお聞きいただけます。88thpp.com 88thpp.com